Hello and welcome to Yoga Rocks Box. Today I've got Maria Box and we're going to talk a little bit about Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So, for people who don't know anything about yoga literature, Patanjali's Sutras, can you just tell us a little bit about why they're important and what exactly they are, just generally, and then we'll talk a little bit more detail.
Okay, well, there is a little book written about what yoga is in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and it's the description, which I think is very important if you are a practitioner of yoga, to know what yoga actually is, that yoga is a state of being. So in the book of the Sutras, which is like pearls, sutra is a pearl, it's 195 pearls, verses in this book, written about what yoga is. And how to, that yoga is a state of being, and how to reach that state of being of peace and liberty actually from your thought waves, and what could be in the way for not reaching that state of mind where you feel in harmony with yourself no matter what's going on. And then in the book it's written about the 8 limbs, which are the tools, like the yamas and the niyamas, which are like moral principles of loving, truthfulness, like general things that we all like to aim to live our life from, I hope, at least if we are yoga practitioners, right? And then there is the asana, which are the movements, but a movement without the yama and niyama, without loving and aiming for loving and kindness and truthfulness, is not really the path towards that peaceful state of your mind. And then there is this is the first and second chapter, and the third chapter and fourth chapter is more a description of, when you reach that peace of mind, what is behind that, and who can you really be if you're not involved in thinking and worrying and judging, all this thing that we are doing as human beings.
And if you don't read the book, but you just practice asana, then do you think these things come up anyway?
I do think that yoga is the practice, the aim of yoga is so powerful. So I do think, questions, curiosity, and I do think that the human body is starting to react into the asana and the breathing within the asana in a way so this thing will happen if it's meant to happen within a human being.
And do you think that people can read the sutras at any point in the yoga journey, even if someone started practicing? Is it quite easy to read, quite practical?
It depends on who you are, and also what book you find on the shelf, because Patanjali Yoga Sutras are interpreted in so many different ways. So, some ways might be easier to read and understand than others. So you have to find which one is talking to you. And then I think anyone can read if you find the book that are talking to you, or the interpretator of the sutra, because that's what makes the difference.
And Patanjali he talks about meditation. So do you think that you need to practice the asana to find the meditation? Or do you think you can just practice, you can work and just practice on the meditation?
Yes, I do think so. Also, there are also written in the first chapter, I think it's the first chapter, that there are some people born into a yogic state of mind, and they do not need to practice at all. They are in a meditative state of mind, and that means that they are in a non-reactive way of living their lives. I mean, they feel things as everyone else do, but they don't react. Like they don't dwell on things. Everything is kind of clear, and they act without no kind of misapprehension or cunning, or they are born like that. So I do think it's possible to take on whatever tool of these 8 limbs that feels for you available and that talks to you. I don't think we should have too many rules about what is right and wrong within the sutras, because the sutras are very clear about describing the mind and what's in the way for us to live peacefully with ourselves and others. So you just got to find the way that suits you, I think.
And it originally, so it's translated from Sanskrit originally, and different people have then translated it and also commented on it. Do you recommend one in particular?
I like the Swami Satchidananda's very much. I also like Deshikashar's interpretation, translation of the sutras. It's not easy to find these days, but it's in the back of Heart of Yoga. Deshikashar was the son of Krishnamacharya, so it's a little bit special because Krishnamacharya was a very, very well-known guru of the Hatha Yoga disciplines. That he was the guru of Mr. Iyengar, he was the guru of Pattabhi Jois, the Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga tradition. So he is like a big name, and his knowledge is huge. So his son interpreted the sutras as well, and that one I think is quite easy to read. Yeah, and I do recommend to find an Indian translator of the sutras first, and if you find the Western one, kind of to compare it, to read it both and compare the different translations with each other.
And do you think over time you'll read it once and then you'll read it again and it'll just deepen and deepen?
Yeah. A couple of weeks back I read the first chapter, and I haven't read the first chapter for like a year or 1.5 years or something. And I read it and I was thinking, oh, have I ever read this before? Because it was like talking to me in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And I read it so many times before, but this time was very, very different. So I do think it's a book that we read over and over again, and it always will tell us different things because we are changing within our bodies, our minds, or how we react or interpret our minds are changing all the time.
So students new to yoga should not be scared to delve in and read some of this philosophy.
No, I do think it's important to open the book and just see what you don't have to start from chapter 1. You can just open it and just what is there, what the verse is talking to you when you open it. And then you'll probably be curious and you would like to read more. You don't have to start with the first and finish with the last one. You can start with chapter 2, for example, which is more a practical one. That chapter is more practical about how to work towards that state of mind. That's where the 8 limbs are described as well, the Ashtanga Yoga. Yeah.
Yes, there's always a confusion there, isn't there, between Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga and Ashtanga.
Yeah.
The original Ashtanga 8 limbs are in the second chapter, don't you?
Yes.
So there's 4 chapters.
Yes, it's 4 chapters. The first chapter are describing what yoga is, and the faith within yourself and something that's bigger than you are, Ishvara Pranidhana, the name of God or Supreme Being or Mother Earth or whatever you like to name the bigger aspect of life than we are part of course. But that humbleness towards something in nature that are bigger than we are, because obviously we haven't created this world and this nature, and we are not in control either of our lives on this earth for the time being.
And the second chapter then is practical, and the third and fourth chapter?
It's more like you go in more into the mind, and you go into the so-called siddhis, the powers within each one of us that we could develop if we are not so busy with thinking or worrying or being jealous or envy or angry or sad or happy or kind of driven away by the waves of feelings, when we are still feeling, but we are not kind of dwelling on it. We are not spending our waking life with this kind of waves of feelings. We can go more in and really discover what kind of skills do we have as human beings. It's called siddhis in Sanskrit.
Well, I think that's perfect. A perfect introduction to the sutras. So go out and get yourself a copy of the sutras and have a little read. And is there where would you go after the sutras? What would you read next?
Read it one more time.
Read it again. Okay. This is Maria Boox. Namaste. We've had an absolutely lovely week with Maria. It's been fantastic. And thank you very much. That's it from